There's an old saying that you just have to give credit where credit is due. And today, we're actually going to credit the Biden administration with doing something right. I don't think they want to do this. I don't think this was a voluntary decision on their part to, quote, do the right thing. I think they have been compelled to do this, but they're doing it nonetheless, so we are going to give them credit for finally doing something right. The Biden administration had been touting a brand new disinformation governance board, which would be operated under the Department of Homeland Security. And Nina Jankowicz was going to be in charge of this group of people that were going to make sure that social media platforms and media outlets did not disseminate disinformation to people, that the American people would only be exposed to the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Or, better worded, their version of the truth, meaning propaganda, or fake news, whichever one's easier for you to say. Right out the gate, conservatives and even many Democrats were united in this is a bad idea. This is like a bad, colossally bad idea. First of all, it's unconstitutional because it's a total violation of the First Amendment that Congress, the U.S. government, does not have the right in any way to abridge or restrict or control free speech. Look at what's been going on in our nation with all of the censoring that has been happening, in particular on social media platforms. We have a former president who's not allowed on Twitter, but hey, the Ayatollahs of Iran, they can tweet. And up until just a couple of weeks ago, Putin could too. Even after he rolled tanks into Ukraine, his account was still active. It has now been deactivated, and yet another defense of democracy. But the point is, we have been watching this restriction. I'm undergoing some of it right here on YouTube. I get shadow banned. It's hard for people to, quote, discover me here. Even people who are subscribed to me, I get reports that it's hard for them sometimes to find my channel. And that's something. There was a time that we had thousands of views, then it dropped to several hundred, and now you see what's happening. We are being shadow banned. It is a form of censorship. It is a restriction of speech. And to some of you who immediately want to say, it's a privately held company and they can do what they want, why are you wigging out that Elon Musk is buying Twitter? We can't let one man have this kind of power. You can't be privately owned. Well, it's okay if it's privately owned when it's a Zuckerberg protecting your speech and allowing you to say whatever you want about the right, but how dare the right be able to say something back? Counterbalance the propaganda with, truth. How dare that happen? And by the way, don't think for a moment Elon Musk is backing out of his purchase of Twitter. I know that's a liberal's wet dream fantasy, but that's not actually what's happening. I think what Elon Musk is doing, because again, he is a really, really, really good businessman, and he knows how to make a buck. He negotiated a price to buy Twitter, and he wants to now know, wait a minute, that was based on what I thought were the number of users you had, and he's finding out that maybe half or more of the users on Twitter aren't even real. They're trolls, they're bots, they are generated through computer programs, in other words, not real people. So he's going to use that, I believe, to leverage the price down. See, they've already agreed in principle they will sell. I mean, this is a masterstroke. He can get the price now lower, and they can't back out. Well, that's not the price we agreed to sell it. Yeah, but I thought you had, let's say, 1 billion users, and it really turns out you only have 100,000 actual real people. Everything else is fake. If that turns out to be true, this is a masterstroke of genius by Elon Musk, and a potential blow to again return things to free speech. And of course, liberal heads are also exploding because Elon Musk said he was going to start voting Republican. Bump, ba-dum, bump. It's only a matter of time before Joe Rogan switches too. You just mark it down, keep watching, pay attention. Winston Churchill once said, if you're not a liberal when you're a young man, you don't have a heart. If you're not a conservative by the time you're an old man, you don't have a brain. I think you're going to start watching some of these liberals begin to finally have their aha, come to Jesus moment, red pill, whatever you want to call it. But it's happening. It's happening slowly, but it's happening. But this disinformation governance board being stopped dead in its tracks, Jankowicz herself not well acquainted on any level with the truth. She bought into the whole Russian collusion narrative. She covered for Hunter Biden. She was pro impeaching Donald Trump over the phone call with Zelensky. It certainly was going to be a governance board, and we were going to have our freedoms restricted, even though the Biden administration is still saying, no, they weren't going to have any real authority. Yeah, like the CDC doesn't have any real authority, which they actually don't. But still, you walk into a doctor's office, well, the CDC says you have to wear a mask in here. You still have municipalities like New York City still requiring masks because, well, it's what the CDC said. So we all know what happens when these unelected bureaucratic agencies are given power. It goes straight to their head, and we know what they're going to do. What's happening with the World Health Organization right now? The United States and other countries have signed an agreement with WHO that in the next pandemic, we are going to relinquish basically our sovereignty to them. You heard me. They will get to determine for every country what the protocols are going to be, what the requirements are going to be, what the mandates are going to be, what the compulsory compliance will be. You will take the love potion and you will like it, or you will not leave your house, you will not be able to go to work, or access your funds or anything, because you're going to need the digital passport. Mark it down. This is what the Biden administration is selling us out to. And so this is a good day. This is a huge victory for freedom. And again, some of you on the left, where have you been on this fight? I'm serious. Where have you been? Some on the left are really engaged on this. And, shout out to people like Jimmy Dore. And Jimmy Dore's a little bit in shock that he's finding that he's got some things in common with Rand Paul, that Rand Paul is saying things that, why isn't Bernie saying this? Why isn't AOC saying these things? Why aren't the liberals actually pushing back against censorship rather than embracing it, saying, please, 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 please? We can't have these Republicans and these conservatives saying these things. No, please, please. Only what we say can be protected. Rand Paul, dealing with the director of the Department of Homeland Security, said, you're going to talk about stopping disinformation. The biggest spreader of disinformation is the United States government.
You've got no idea what disinformation is, and I don't think the government's capable of it. Do you know who the greatest propagator of disinformation in the history of the world is? The U.S. government. Are you familiar with McNamara, the Pentagon Papers? Are you familiar with George W. Bush and the weapons of mass destruction? Are you familiar with Iran-Contra? I mean, think of all the debates and disputes we've had over the last 50 years in our country. We work them out by debating them. We don't work them out by the government being the arbiter. I don't want you guardrails. I want you to have nothing to do with speech. You think we can't determine, speech by traffickers is disinformation? You think the American people are so stupid they need you to tell them what the truth is? You can't even admit what the truth is with the Steele dossier. I don't trust government to figure out what the truth is. Government is largely disseminating disinformation.
So the Biden administration is now officially pulling the plug. They're saying it's on pause. In other words, they got to regroup and they got to think about how do they resplain this? How do they repackage this, resell it, re-promote it. And again, you want to talk about disseminating false information. For 2 days, we have heard nonstop that the Buffalo shooter was doing what he did because of the influences of people like Tucker Carlson. That was all over the mainstream media and being preached as gospel fact. And it turns out the shooter in Buffalo was actually a supporter of the neo-Nazis in the Ukrainian army. Had nothing to do with Tucker Carlson or conservative media outlets. What's going to be happening to the people that disseminated that false information? Oh, that's right. That was a talking point given to them by the Biden White House. You waking up to any of this? So it's been put on hold. It's a pushback. It's a win. And speaking of pushback, the people of Portugal have a message for all of the Californians who have transplanted themselves to Portugal. Go home. That's right. Go home. In the last 2 years, there has been a 45% increase in the population of Portugal of people directly from California. And they left California because of the high cost of living, the pandemic lockdowns, and they hate Donald Trump and his politics and the MAGA people. So they went to Portugal. The problem is the very things that these liberals say they detest, white privilege, and they detest capitalism, and they want everything equitable and fair. Well, they really targeted the city of Lisbon. And they went into the parts of the city that were basically like abandoned and disgusting. And they have been buying it and fixing it up and moving in, and they have created gentrification. Do we know what that is, boys and girls? Yes, we do. When a group of people get displaced because the rich people come in and they take it over and they make it theirs. And the poor people that they claim to love, the BLM signs that they all hold, even though they're all white and just talking to each other, all of that phony, fraudulent, bleeding heart, we don't want to be racist, we want to be equitable and do something for the homeless. Well, invite them over to your place, then they won't be homeless anymore. Oh, can't do that. So what the government of Portugal is saying is, hey, you fled California because you had all these problems there. Well, don't bring your problems here. We don't want to be like that. Bump, ba-dum, bump. In other words, they want their freedom, but they want all the lib-lunacy stupidity that actually created the infringement of their freedom to begin with. Well, let's just be equitable with other people's money. But wait, I don't want to have to pay $10 a gallon of gas to be able to do that. Well, that's what's happening in California. You guys are paying twice the national average. One, because of the incompetence we have in the White House and closing down all of our own domestic oil production and our gas leases so that we're like beggars out there begging it from our enemies to buy oil from them, which drives the price up here at home. But in California, you're also led by an incompetent Ken Dow, who's just simply the flip side of Mitt Romney, Gavin the Hair Newsom. And there he is with all of his giveaways to illegals and all of his freebies and all of his bullhawk hogwash that he has no tax base to tap into anymore. So he taxes your gas. That's why you pay $8 a gallon. See, you want all of this feel-good liberalism and policy, and you don't understand it is the very thing that destroyed your state that you're fleeing from. And now you want to transplant it to Portugal, and the Portuguese people are saying, no, nay, not here, get out. You mean they aren't embracing you? They aren't saying, give us your poor, you're tired, you're white privileged. Come turn our country into the very thing that you detest in your own? Bump, Ba-dum-bum. So it's been a good week, and we're only in the middle, and who knows how things will end up by the end of the week, but we're seeing pushback, 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 and oh baby, oh baby, oh baby, get ready, the winning is just starting.